Welcome to 21st Sports Recap and Reaction for Game 3 of the NLDS between the St. Louis Cardinals and the Chicago Cubs, played October 12th, 2015. We're going to go over every at-bat and the stats and give our breakdown and analysis. And so starting in this game, we had Jake Arrieta for the Cubs, Michael Wacha for St. Louis. The series evened up at one game apiece as they had split in St. Louis, and now they were playing Game 3 in Chicago. So starting off, Carpenter would lead off the game. He flew out, Piscotty struck out, and Holiday struck out as Arrieta set down the side in order in the top of the first. Then in the bottom of the first, Wacha got Fowler to fly out. He then walked Soler. Then Bryant singled, and then Rizzo lined into a double play. So that did it for the first inning. So then in the top of the second, Arrieta let up a leadoff double to Hayward, but then set down the next three batters as he got Peralta, Pham, and Molina all to ground out. So now on to the bottom of the second, Wacha would get Castro to ground out, but then Schwarber took him deep over the center field wall, 372 feet, and it was 1-0 Chicago over St. Louis with the solo shot from Schwarber. So then Russell flew out and Montero struck out. So that would do it for the second, but not after the Cubbies had added a run to the scoreboard to take the early lead. So now in the top of the third, Arrieta would set down the side in order again as he ended up getting Wong to ground out, Wacha struck out, and Carpenter flew out. So now on to the bottom of the third, Wacha would get Arrieta to strike out. He then got Fowler to fly out. Soler walked for the second time, and then Bryant struck out, and that would do it for the third. So now on to the top of the fourth, Piscotty walked, Holiday walked, so now 2 on, no outs for Hayward, but he would strike out. So now Peralta came to the plate, he hit a double, that drove in Piscotty, it moved Holiday to third, so he had 2 runners in scoring position, as it was now a tied game at 1 run apiece. Pham then grounded out, but that brought Holiday in, as the Cards took the lead 2-1, Peralta moving over to third. So now Molina came to the plate, he grounded out, and that would bring the top half of the fourth to a close, but not after the Cards had taken the lead with 2 runs in the top of the fourth to go up 2-1 over the Cubs. So now in the bottom of the fourth, Wacha would get Rizzo to ground out, but then Starlin Castro took him deep to left center, 413 feet, and this game was tied up at 2 runs apiece. Schwarber would then strike out. Addison Russell then hit a triple. Baez would come in to run for Russell, and Montero was intentionally walked, and then Arrieta struck out. So they left the runner stranded 90 feet away. But it was now tied up 2-2 going into the top of the fifth. Arrieta would then strike out Wong and Wacha. Carpenter singled, but then he struck out Piscotty as he had 3 strikeouts in the top of the fifth. So now on to the bottom of the fifth. Wacha would get Fowler to fly out. Soler then reached base again, this time with a single. And then Chris Bryant with the 2-run shot. And the Cubbies were back in the lead, 4-2 now, with the 2-run home run. So Zegras would come in to relieve Wacha, and he would let up a solo shot to Rizzo as it was back-to-back homers for the Cubbies. This one 430 feet to right. And off of 2 different pitchers. So back-to-back home runs off 2 different pitchers. First the 2-run shot by Bryant and the solo shot by Rizzo. And it was now 5-2 Chicago over St. Louis. Castro would then fly out, and then he fouled out. And then Schwarber walked. Baez then singled and stole second, but Montero would strike out, and that would do it for the fifth, but not after the Cubbies had added 3 runs to the scoreboard. So now in the top of the sixth, Arrieta would let up a leadoff single to Holiday. Then Hayward came to the plate, and he went deep, 379 feet to left. That drove in Holiday with a 2-run shot that made it a 1-run game with the score Chicago 5, St. Louis 4. So now Peralta would strike out. Pham struck out as well. Moss would pinch hit for Molina, and he was hit by a pitch. Richard would come in to relieve Arrieta as he was done for the night. And Wong would ground out, and that would do it for the top of the sixth. So the Cards add 2 runs and make it a 1-run game, 5-4. Heading into the bottom of the sixth, Seth Manis would come in to pitch for the Cards in relief of Zegras. And now Coughlin would come in to pinch hit for Richard. He hit a single. Fowler then sacrificed him to second, and Wainwright would come in to relieve Manis. So now Wainwright on the mound, and he let up a 2-run shot to the first batter he faced as Soler took him deep over center field, 397 feet, and it was now 7-4 as the Cubs went back up by 3. Bryant then grounded out and Rizzo popped out, but the Cubs had added 2 runs in the bottom of the 6th. So 7-4 heading into the 7th. Trevor Cahill now on the mound for the Cubbies, and he would strike out Gerchuk and Carpenter. Piscotty then singled. Holiday would reach first base on a throwing error. Piscotty safe at second, and then Travis Wood would come in to relieve Trevor Cahill, and he would get Hayward to line out to left. So that would do it for the top of the 7th. Now in the bottom of the 7th, Wainwright still on the mound for the Cards. Let up a leadoff single to Starlin Castro. Schwarber then struck out. Baez reached on an infield single, but Castro was called out as the ball hit him in the foot. So Castro hanging around that baseline in between first and second gets hit by the ball that Baez hit, and so he's called out on the contact with the ball. And so now Montero came up and he struck out, and that would do it for the 7th. So now on to the top of the 8th. Strop on the mound in relief of Wood for the Cubs. He would strike out Peralta. Garcia would pinch hit for Wainwright, and he grounded out, and then Cruz struck out. So Strop setting down the side in order in the top of the 8th. So now on to the bottom of the 8th. Jonathan Broxton in to relieve Wainwright for the Cards, and he would strike out Coughlin. And then Dexter Fowler went deep, a solo shot, 381 feet to right, and it was now a 4-1 lead for the Cubs, 8-4. Jackson then walked, and then he got caught stealing second, and Bryant struck out. So that would do it for the 8th, but not after the Cubs had added a run to extend their lead to 4. So now in the top of the 9th, Hector Rondon would come in to finish this one out for the Cubs. It was not a save situation, being that they had a 4-run lead, and so he would ground out. He would get Wong to ground out. Gerchuk then reached on an infield single, and then Gerchuk would end up taking second on a fielder's indifference. Carpenter then flew out, so now we had 2 outs in the inning with a man on second, Gerchuk. Piscotty came to the plate, and Piscotty went deep, a 2-run home run that scored Gerchuk, and it was now a 2-run game with the score Chicago 8, St. Louis 6. So it was still not a save situation as there was 2 outs, and it was a 2-run game. If it had been a 1-run game, or if there had just been 1 out, then it would have became a save situation, but there has to be the same number of runs as there is outs left for it to be a save situation. So that's why in the 9th, when you come in, there's 3 outs left, and if it's 3 runs or less, it's a save situation. But here, still 2 runs in the lead for Chicago with just 1 out left, so it was not a safe situation. And Holiday was at the plate, the tying run on deck, and Holiday grounded out. And this game came to the close as the Cubbies hold on to win. They take the lead in the NLDS over their rivals, the Cardinals, as they're now up 2-1, winning this one 8-6. And this one, I'll tell you, I thought the Toronto game had a lot of home runs, but here in this game, the Cubs go off. 6 home runs for Chicago. 8 home runs in the game as the Cards had a pair themselves. But Chicago, I mean, who says you can't win them with the long ball? Certainly not the Cubbies. It's Schwarber, Castro, Bryant, Rizzo, Soler, and Fowler all hit home runs. So every single run that the Cubbies scored was courtesy of a home run in this game. And also the Cards, as I said, added a pair themselves as Hayward and Piscotty hit home runs for St. Louis. And Arrieta, he was cruising along there, looking pretty good, but then he got into some trouble in the 6th, allowing a couple runs. He allowed 2 in the 4th, and then he allowed 2 in the 6th off that 2-run shot by Hayward. As he went 5 2/3 innings, he did get the win. He allowed 4 runs off of 5 hits. Of course, that 1 home run. He did strike out 9 batters, walking 2. Richard pitched a third of an inning of relief, not allowing any hits or any earned runs. Cahill pitched 2/3 of an inning, as he did not allow any earned runs. He did strike out both outs that he recorded, and he allowed one hit. And Wood, he pitched a third of an inning, not allowing any hits or runs. Strop pitched a full inning, 2 strikeouts, no hits, no runs, as the Cubs continued to get some really good relief here down the stretch. And Rondon, although he allowed that 2-run shot, he came in and finished out the game in that last inning. And it was not a save situation. He came in with a 4-run cushion, and even with the 2-run shot, it didn't become a save situation because there was only 1 out left to record, and he got that out. And the Cubs hold on to win, as it was kind of a close call there at the end, as the Cardinals didn't just lay down. They went out swinging, but the Cubs just had the bigger bats. Like I said, 6 home runs for Chicago. An amazing offensive output by the Cubbies. Let's look at the Cardinals pitching, though. Wacha gets the loss in this game. He pitched 4 1/3 innings, allowing 4 runs off of 6 hits. He walked 3 batters, striking out 5, allowing 3 home runs. Sechrist pitched 2/3 of an inning, allowing 1 earned run off of 2 hits, striking out 1, walking 1. He allowed a home run as well. Manis 1/3 of an inning, allowing 1 earned run and 1 hit. Wainwright allowed 1 earned run off of 3 hits. He did have 2 strikeouts. He allowed 1 home run, and that was in 1 2/3 of relief. 1 2/3 innings of relief. Broxton pitched an inning. He allowed 1 earned run off of 1 hit, the home run, the solo shot. He also struck out 2. So we look at the offensive numbers. Fowler 1 for 4, 1 RBI, 1 run scored. Soler 2 for 2, 2 RBIs, 2 walks. Then we look at Bryant 2 for 5, 2 RBIs, 1 run scored. He did strike out twice. Rizzo 1 for 4, 1 RBI. Castro 2 for 4, he had an RBI as well. Schwarber 1 for 3 with an RBI and a run scored. He also walked once. He did strike out twice. It's actually, that was all the starters that had RBIs. Russell was 1 for 2. He didn't get an RBI. Montero 0 for 3. And Arrieta 0 for 2, the pitcher. But Baez 2 for 2 in the game. And then over for St. Louis, Carpenter 1 for 5. Piscotty 2 for 4 with 2 RBIs. He had that home run. He had 2 strikeouts, 1 walk. Holiday 1 for 4 with 2 runs scored. He walked once, struck out once. Hayward 2 for 4. He had a home run as well. 2 RBIs, 1 run scored, 1 strikeout. Peralta 1 for 4, struck out twice. He did have an RBI. Pham 0 for 3, but he did have an RBI. And then Girkchuk 1 for 2 with a run scored. So Chicago jumping out to that early lead, and they just kept swinging the lumber. See it, that home run by Schwarber in the 2nd, then in the 4th, Castro. And then in the 5th, they get 2 home runs. The 2-run shot by Bryant, the home run by Rizzo. Then in the 6th, Soler adds another 2-run shot, and Fowler adds 1, which actually did come in handy. The Cardinals, they kept putting up points. Well, runs, as it were, as in baseball, they're runs. Of course, then he scored to me as a point, but hey, that's just me. But yeah, so they just kept scoring. They made it interesting. They wouldn't just go away, as it took the whole game to beat them. So, Piscotty with that 2-run shot in the 9th, making things interesting, but with only 1 out left, that was all she wrote. So Chicago getting a huge win against their division rival, the Cardinals. And the Cardinals, they're like the Yankees of the National League. And the Cubs are kind of like the Red Sox of the National League. So this is kind of like Red Sox-Yankees of the Midwest. And it's really excellent postseason baseball. And it's fun to watch, that's for sure. Like I said, if you like home runs, this was the game for you, as they just kept going deep over that ivy. But let me know what you think in the comments section below. Definitely interested to read your thoughts and opinions. Thank you very much for listening. It's greatly appreciated. I hope you had a good day and had a great weekend and enjoyed all the sports.